Ole Miss's schedule, they have Washington State coming up on the 11th. So again, must be a bye week this coming week on the 4th.
Everyone has a bye week
But
this week.
everybody's on. I would want
UC is
one
having a
after
bye week.
after all the games this week. They may need a bye week. But you got Washington State coming in, and then if you can get through Georgia, at Georgia, we'll talk about this in a minute, but Georgia just lost at home to Bama.
Snapped a 6-year streak.
Yeah. So, and then you've got to go to Oklahoma. That's rough. But if you just get one of those, let's just say you get one, doesn't matter which, then you've got home against South Carolina, home against the Citadel, home against Florida, and then 2 Mississippi State. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You can start talking about Ole Miss as a playoff contender and talk about that seriously. What do you think?
I might agree with you. If they stay on the path they've been on, I think it'll come down to how they play against Georgia and Oklahoma. Well, the Rebels might be a team to look out for in the later part of the season.
Yeah, they've got that 2-game gauntlet. We'll call it at Georgia, at Oklahoma. But they get through that, and they're sitting pretty.
I think if they win one of those games, that's a 11-1.
If they go 1-1,
good offense.
If they go 1-1, if they go 0-2, they still may have a chance. Getting they still may have a chance, depending on what other teams do in the SEC. Let's pull this up. I just want to look at the SEC standings. You've got a lot of teams that have one loss now in the SEC. Georgia 1 loss, LSU 1 loss, Tennessee 1 loss. So there's the only teams that are still undefeated in the SEC are Bama, A&M, Oklahoma, Vandy, and Missouri. They're only 1-0. And catch this, Ole Miss is already 3-0 in the conference. Already 3-0 in the conference, and 5-0 overall.
The next game was Alabama, Georgia, as we said. And that was Georgia's first loss at home for the first time in 6 years.
I owe Alabama an apology.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, kind of like Indiana. People are probably going to stop watching this because they're like, the fat guy does not know what he's talking about, and you're right. But I had Bama dead to rights. They looked terrible in Tallahassee to open the year. I was hard on them. I was hard on DeBoer. And when we talked about that first or second episode, like what team do you see ranked now that you don't see ranked in December, I said Alabama. And I would like to take every bit of that back, please, because to roll up into Athens between the hedges and beat them at home for the first time since, 2019?
That snapped a 33-game home streak for the Bulldogs in Athens.
And to do it convincingly, the silver lining for Georgia, they did shut out Alabama in the second half, but Georgia only scored 7 in the second half. And those folks like myself that have been wondering, can DeBoer win the big games? Can he handle the pressure of Alabama, going into Georgia and all the things that, Bama gets everybody's best shot? He did that. He did it, so credit where credit is due. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I owe Alabama a massive, massive apology. So Roll Tide fans, I am sorry. I was wrong.
That was a good game overall by Alabama. Ty Simpson threw 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alabama as a whole ran for 117 yards. But here was probably the biggest difference. Even though Georgia ran for 227 yards, Alabama threw for 280 yards, and Georgia only threw for 130 yards. That's the thing about Georgia. They have a really good run defense, but not so much against the pass. I think Tennessee might have been the game that might have proved that, because Chris Brazzell, he was catching all over that Georgia defense. So I think that might be Georgia's weakness is the passing defense, because that's 280 yards right there. And Isaiah Horton for Alabama had 65 yards, 1 touchdown. But it was really even. A lot of the guys on Alabama had over 30 yards receiving. 3 had over 40, and then 5 had over 30.